Of course, that you can get interactive with us on all our social media handles, on X Spaces, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on myjoyonline.com. Let's settle and deal with the state of Ghana. And our President John Mahama has delivered a stark assessment of the nation's economy, likening it to a patient in an intensive care unit in a hospital. Now, in his first State of the Nation address delivered in Parliament a while ago, he highlighted how the previous administration had depleted key financial reserves, including the sinking fund. According to President Mahama, only $46,000 and 143 million cedis remained in the fund, dollar and CD account respectively. Here are excerpts of what the president has been telling Ghanaians about the economy in the State of the Nation address.
I'm sad to report that the state of our nation is not good. Our economy is in crisis and our people are suffering unprecedented hardships. Mr. Speaker, we will host a national economic dialogue on March 3rd and 4th. On March 11th, the Minister of Finance, on my behalf, will present the budget estimates for the financial year 2025 to this August House. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me give you the statement of account for the Debt Service Reserve Account, which is also popularly referred to as the sinking fund. This fund shows a balance of only $64,000 in the dollar account, $64,000 in the dollar account, and 143 million Ghana cedis in the CD account. The repercussions of the accumulation of debt and economic mismanagement will require extensive work and sacrifice to repair.
Well, the president, however, highlighted key measures introduced by his administration, which according to him are already delivering results, and reaffirmed his commitment to fiscal consolidation, structural reforms, and economic revival. He invited the MPP minority to join the consultation towards a revival of the Ghanaian economy.
Notwithstanding this gloomy background, I remain committed to leading this government and taking every necessary step to reset our economy, getting things back on track, and working with the good people of our country to build the Ghana we want. Mr. Speaker, we are doubling our efforts to complete all outstanding structural reforms. Through the budget, we will implement corrective measures to restore fiscal discipline and debt sustainability. We're also working hard towards completing the upcoming fourth review of the IMF-supported program. The review is scheduled from April 2nd to April 15th, 2025, and the IMF Executive Board is expected to approve it in June of this year. As we have done previously, we're also building buffers in the sinking fund and adopting prudent debt management practices to ensure prompt repayment of upcoming domestic and external debt maturities. In this respect, government successfully honored the matured coupon payment of $6.081 billion in cash and $3.46 billion in kind, which was due in February 2025 to all domestic debt exchange program bondholders, fully paid. Mr. Speaker, the good news is that we have also built additional buffers in the sinking fund to honor the maturing bonds that are due in July and August. And so bondholders can rest assured that they will be paid to the last peso, whatever is owed them. With the transparent and prudent measures we have implemented since taking over the administration of this country, I urge my countrymen and women, business owners, and foreign investors to trust our competence in turning our economic fortunes around. Mr. Speaker, since we took office on January 7, 2025, we have upheld our commitment to a fiscal consolidation agenda with a streamlined government. We have eliminated unnecessary expenditures and reduced our reliance on borrowing. Our prudent debt management practices have led to a substantial reduction in interest rates. The 91-day Treasury bill rate, which was 28.51% on January 6, 2025, has dropped to 24.48% as of February 24, 2025.
And of course, the minority came in black. This leader, Afenyo-Markin, would have none of it. He vehemently criticized President Mahama for benefiting from the strong economic turnaround driven by the prudent management of the previous administration, that's the MPP. And among other concerns, he also took issues with the president's cabinet nominations, arguing that only 10% of appointees so far have been women, plus terminating the appointment of thousands of Ghanaian workers.
President of Ghana, and you had served as chair of the economic management team of your own cabinet. Yet, when you came to this house, you lamented on the same state of the economy that you have presided, and re-echoed the point that we are left with just the bones. Mr. Speaker, the President again says that he has delivered less ministers. But it is clear that his strategy is, if less, more divide. You have appointed few ministers, but more and more and more presidential staffers, and more committees. The President again, honorable members, please. The President again came to this house with a familiar story, the usual lamentations. He packaged it in a language as though we have a new beginning. Mr. Speaker, if the President has any concerns, his duty is to fix it. His Excellency, the President, has announced to us a cabinet of 19 with only 2 women. The daughter of the founder of this NDC, is missing. Hajaladi is missing. Melanie Toko is missing. Where are the women in this government? The Vice President. Honorable members, please, order. The Vice President is part of the government, and we are seeing only 2 women in cabinet, and the Vice President is sitting there. In percentage terms, we have only 10% of women in cabinet.
Well, after the presentation of the State of the Nation address and the reaction that came from the leaders of the side, we'll bring you the majority leaders on shortly. But the minority group also has been reacting to the President's address at a news conference soon after. Now, take a listen to the Member of Parliament for Inshares, Dr. Stephen Amwa, address the media after the presentation.
So the economy is one that is actually illustrating insecurity, mass termination, mass violations of human rights, and misapplication and breaching of our own constitution, which is the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. If you have been realizing what is going on in our country today, even public servants and civil servants who have what it takes to also access public facilities as enshrined in our constitutions are being sacked. But our president, presenting his statement, made it clear that he is in this position to make sure that equality and equitability prevails. But what we are seeing in our country today is never true. It's the opposite. Clearly, the world went through one of the most unfortunate economic crises. You realize that the global economy grew negative 3.3. Inflationary rate post-COVID was over 200%. And that was the period that our economy actually went through very
to the many promises he made, right? It exposes him in terms of the gloomy picture he painted about the economy. The fundamental question is, if the economy is that gloomy, where are you going to get the money from to do your Nkukon-Ketinkete promise? If the economy is gloomy, where are you going to get the money, right, to implement all the things you are saying? Clearly, it exposes him that he's just telling us some fundamental untruth.
Or to appear that the whole address was framed on the anchor or the pillars of lamentations and blame game, and if you want, almost even shaking responsibility of governance, of the fact that he has a responsibility to govern with the greatest of respect to the president. Now, I want to make the point that every government comes into office inheriting assets and liabilities. Every government comes into office inheriting some credits as well as inheriting debts. President Kufuor in 2001 inherited assets and liabilities. He inherited debts. President Mills came into office in 2009 inheriting assets and liabilities. So was it the case that President Mahama inherited same? So was it for President Akufo-Addo in 2017. When President Akufo-Addo came into office in 2017, clearly, President Akufo-Addo inherited debts across the spectrum of our government architecture. So the question about there's debt here, there's debt there, there's debt here, I'm not too sure that can be a justifiable excuse for not delivering on the concrete issues which affect the Ghanaian people. Issues of healthcare, issues of education, issues of agriculture, issues of jobs, issues of unleashing prosperity and wealth for the mass of our people.
Well, let me take you back to the Chamber of Parliament to listen to the Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga, after the presentation of the State of the Nation address.
That they are done today says it all. But this side is in white because His Excellency the President, we knew very well, was bringing to us a message of hope. Mr. Speaker, our elders have cautioned that you don't leave your crown in the hands of a hyena as a caretaker when you are traveling. Don't be surprised when you come back and the carcasses of all your livestock are gone. Mr. Speaker, what has happened to our economy and our country and the presentation that has been made says it all. It is sad, it is unfortunate. But His Excellency the President has brought us hope. Hope for the youth of this country. Hope for the women. Hope for the Okada drivers. Hope for the private sector. Hope for students. And hope for ordinary Ghanaians who did everything to bring him to office with such an overwhelming number. Mr. Speaker, we have no doubt that everything outlined here gives hope, and this House will support His Excellency to deliver on his commitment. But more importantly, this House will support His Excellency to deliver on the promise of accountability.
Well, the president also addressed key issues including education, healthcare, and illegal mining. We will explore these issues in more detail shortly, but let me give you a general overview of some of the key things that he touched on in the area of the economy. We've put together this to illustrate the point more forcefully in this graphics. Right, so we'll bring that to you shortly, but let me introduce my guests as we want to dissect what we're told today. In the studio this afternoon with me is Richard Ahiagba. He's the National Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party. Richard, you're welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you kindly.
Great. And then also joining us via Zoom, we have Mustafa Gbande. Mustafa Gbande is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, also Deputy Director of Operations at the Jubilee House. We'll bring him on shortly. And then also we will have Dr. Asa Asante, a political scientist at the University of Ghana, a former Finance Minister, Dr. Amin Adam, and the Deputy Finance Minister Designate, Thomas Ampem-Darko. Those are my guests this afternoon as we look at the issue that were presented to this afternoon by President Mahama. But let's illustrate the many things that were said today in these graphics. Right, so this is the president's take on the economy. I mean, there's a point that he's made quite in some time now, that in the coming month, March 3rd to be precise, and 4th, they will host a national economic dialogue, and he's shown an invitation to the MPP to participate in this dialogue. We'll find out whether the MPP will accept the invitation and participate as well. And then, of course, on his behalf by the Minister of Finance, the 2025 budget estimates will be presented to the House. And these two events, the economic dialogue and the budget, will allow him to present the real state of Ghana's economic crisis to the people of the country. And so these are the matters that he spoke about as far as the economy is concerned, that it is common knowledge that the Ghanaian economy is in dire straits, which is putting it mildly, because after an initial assessment of the books, I'm quoting him, we have discovered that our economic problems are much deeper than was publicly known. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. The profundity of the challenges are staggering. That's according to President Mahama. And he make a declaration that he, as President of the Republic, will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. Right, so these are also still matters on the economy on your screens now. The red coats that came from the address delivered to Parliament, and of course to the country, contained in the State of the Nation address. Right, so let's start from the studio as we try to bring in the Deputy Finance Minister Designate, and of course the former Finance Minister, and then the NDC Deputy General Secretary, Richard Ahiagba is there. Richard, so clearly from what we've been told, it's like you left a very hopeless country for the NDC.
Well, thank you very much. That doesn't sound correct, does it? But before that, let me just greet your viewers and listeners if you have some on the radio. But the President's assessment of the economy is simply not true. It's not right. It's exaggerated. It is convenient for him to start from that place so that the mediocre performance, which will greet his administration, then look as though that he's done something. The Honorable Minority Leader started from a place that I thought that if he had time to expand it, would have given a very clear picture to Ghanaians the president, contrasting him sitting there with his former position that he's indicated coming into government as a vice president, assuming presidency. He's been president, then was inaugurated as president. His account of his own government was dire. He said what situation he's handing over to himself in 2013 is as bad, that there was nothing, it was just left with bones.
Right, the meat had been
exactly
eaten all the way to
and
the
it's
bone.
left with a bone. So if the same President John Dramani Mahama could describe his own government that he's handing over to himself as that, then if he gets the chance to describe an economy that is inheriting from someone, you can imagine that this is going to be what he said. But let's just look at two things to measure his government, ultimately what he left in 2017 when we inherited, versus what he is inheriting today. He left office with a GDP growth of 3.4%. He's inheriting twice that. 6.3% is the projected growth this year, 2024. Now, the current account balances of a country shows it's a measure of the health of the country in terms of transaction, how much money is moving through the economy, how much money we're making through our trades and service, investments, payment for investment. Generally, how much money is moving through the economy. We inherited a deficit of 6.6% from him in 2017. He's inheriting 2.6%. He's inheriting a more liquid economy, a more vibrant economy, a more well-positioned economy. What is left for him to do is to maintain the trajectory that has been handed to him.
Right.
So what he's done today is to indicate for people, I cannot do it, instead of moving forward and managing what is inherited.
He says he will fix it.
Well, if he will fix it, he should have shown us what he's going to do to fix it, rather than misrepresent the state of the economy he inherited. What the president did today was purely misrepresentation of what he inherited. The numbers are clear. Yes, you can talk about inflation, which we inherited from about 15% or so, and it's taken over about 23%.
Yeah, 23 as at the end of 2024.
Right? Now,
even exceeding the IMF threshold.
Exactly. Now, you see the target was about 18%, but you see the context in which that became the case. We inherited 15%. Now, in 2019, and I keep saying this thing, that if we follow the narrative, the evolution of the economic story under President Nana Akufo-Addo, you see that we're on a path of growth until COVID. And that shows you in 2019, our inflation came down to about 8.2. Now, since when I was a young man, we've been projecting inflation plus or minus 2 for a long time, but we actually achieved that in 2019. So this economy that he's inheriting is twice as better as the economy he left.
I'll come back to you because my other guest has something to do, so we'll do it quickly with him. And he's the man who managed our economy before the expiration of the Akufo-Addo administration, Dr. Amin Adams. Doctor, good to see you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well.
To your
I'm doing well.
viewers.
I'm doing so well. I understand that you are out of town, so you were not among those in black today in Parliament.
Yes.
Right. But the management of the economy perhaps was in focus today when President Mahama took the podium to address the nation in the State of the Nation address. And he says that the economy is in crisis, the economy you manage at the latter part of the Akufo-Addo administration. You left 721 billion Ghana cedis in debt. State-owned enterprises also in debt, including ECG, that owes 68 billion Ghana cedis. Ghana Cocoa Board, we are talking about 32 billion Ghana cedis, of which 9.7 billion is due to be paid at the end of September. Clearly, he questions your management of the economy and says that what you left behind can best be likened to a patient in an intensive care unit.
Well, you don't measure the health of an economy only in terms of debts. You have liabilities and you have assets. And so a basic accountant knows this basic fact, that when you want to assess the performance of a company, you look at debts, liabilities, and you also look at assets. And so if the president was talking only about debts, then the equation is incomplete. And that would be intellectual dishonesty. Secondly, if you look at the debt situation, we all know the problems we went through as a country, not just Ghana, the whole world went through these challenges of COVID, the war in Ukraine. The NDC will not accept that. But even the IMF and the World Bank, they have reiterated the effect of COVID and the war in Ukraine as all over the world. So if you want to look at how we came by these debts, the context is very clear. But it is not just about mentioning the debt figures. You measure debt sustainability, which is what we are working to achieve in terms of your GDP. So number one, you have to ask yourself, the money you borrowed, what did you use it for? The Akufo-Addo government borrowed, but we also used it to increase the size of the GDP by $20 billion. $20 billion is no mean achievement. That you have borrowed and you've added to the size of the GDP over 7 years, $20 billion United States dollars. It means that we've used the money well, we've used the money productively, we've used it to build the economy. Secondly, if you also want to look at sustainability, you look at the debt figures as against the GDP. Now, if you look at the indicator of the sustainability that we left, it was 72% of GDP. And don't forget that it had risen to above 80%. But because of our productive debt management strategy, we brought it down to 72% of GDP. The NDC, when they left office in 2016, what was their sustainability outlook? By the end of 2016, the debt to GDP was 4%. So I'm surprised President Mahama is talking about debt when he handed over 74% of GDP in debt sustainability to the Akufo-Addo government. And this is why we're saying that it is about debts. Every government has accrued debts. Remember, in 2017, when MPP took over, the energy sector alone had a debt of $2.5 billion.
Today we are told it's $2.2 billion.
2.5 billion United States dollars. Okay? The road sector had debts. The cocoa sector had debts. But President Akufo-Addo took the bull by the horn. He accepted responsibility. He didn't say because of these debts, he was not going to provide leadership. And this is what I expect President Mahama to do. Now, let's look at the state of the economy.
Right.
Now, the state of the economy before we NDC left office in 2016. An economy that grew at 7.2% in the third quarter. And by the end of the year, when the fiscal data is out, you will see above 6%. Compared to the 3.4% Mahama left office with. The current account balance at the time Mahama left office was minus 3.1%. That was a deficit. Akufo-Addo left office with a surplus of 5.9%. Okay? Similarly, trade balance. He left office in 2016 with a deficit of 2% of GDP. Akufo-Addo left office with a surplus of 4%. International reserves. Mahama left office with about 3.5 months of import cover. President Akufo-Addo left office with 4 months of import cover in international reserves. So if you look at what President Akufo-Addo took over from President Mahama, and he didn't run away from his responsibility, he provided leadership and supervised an economy faced with COVID, faced with the war in Ukraine, and still ended his term with all these figures. These figures may not be the optimal level we want to achieve.
Right.
But comparing with the record of President Mahama, I think that President Mahama should stop this lamentation and go ahead to take leadership.
So Doctor,
provide leadership.
Doctor, in spite of all of this, I mean, the narrative we've been provided this afternoon, we provided this afternoon, is that the economy left behind can best, I mean, first we heard words like it was criminally handled, it's in crisis, it's in ICU, basically saying that, concluding that you set out to run down the republic. What will be your reaction to this?
Well, from what I have said, I think you can see that the economy is in a healthy position. He talked about the financial sector. And one way of measuring the health of an economy is the financial sector performance. The financial sector, which is the backbone of our economy, is strong. And you can see the data from the recent Bank of Ghana report after their last MPC. Deputy Minister Designate is going to the Bank of Ghana as a board member. He will go and see the data. Total assets in terms of annual growth by December 2024 was 33.8%. Total deposits, December 2024 was 28.8% annual growth. Is it an economy that is in trouble when the financial sector is posting these data in terms of their performance? If we come to earnings and profitability, returns on assets before tax, as of December 2023, it was 5.4%. December 2024, it's 5%. But when you even come to look at returns on equity after tax, December 2024 was 38.8%. I'm talking about annual growth rates.
Right.
So these ratios of the performance of the banks, and if you come to the capital market, you will see, similar data where the GSE All Share Index, in terms of year to date growth, is about 56%. The capital market tells you the health of the economy, how the economy is performing. And so I wanted to see data that the president will present, such as what I'm doing. The statistics that tell you the performance of an economy. So we can tell whether the economy was really in crisis. But what I heard him talking about was debts and debts and debts. And I'm really sorry. That is not the narrative. That
and I'm guessing that, Doctor, I'm guessing that those details you are asking for will come up in the budget. But just one quick question so I can bring in the Deputy Minister Designate, Mr. Nyako. When you saddle a new government with so much money to pay in terms of settling our debt, to the extent that in the next 4 years, debt servicing alone will amount to 280 billion Ghana cedis, comprising 150 for domestic, 130 in external debt service. And clearly, the government is left with very little room to undertake the many development that it has promised Ghanaians. That, for some, can be likened to not prudent managing what was bestowed on you.
No, you look at debts in terms of debt sustainability. So to the extent that your debt sustainability ratio shows that debt to GDP ratio has come down from above 80% to 72% and going. Don't forget that even between September and October, the debt level reduced by 68 billion Ghana cedis. And so we had put in motion a debt management strategy, which was going to eventually reduce our debt to GDP to 55% in net present value terms. And so that is what we expect this government to continue. But they are doing something else, lamentation upon lamentation. Now the president is talking about a $10 billion big push project he's going to implement. How is he going to implement it? When the same president is saying that the economy is not in good shape. Is he deceiving Ghanaians? So such contradictory positions will not help people who are watching our economy.
Perhaps we can put that question to the Deputy Finance Minister Designate. He's gone through vetting, awaiting approval by Parliament and subsequent swearing in by the President. The Honourable Bismarck Nyako, Honourable, you're welcome. You've heard the man you took over from the Finance Ministry, rubbishing everything that we were told today by the President, saying that they left an economy in good stead. What will be your reaction to this, Mr. Ampim?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And my regards to all the panelists. I'm surprised that anybody in this country would think that the Ghanaian economy is in good shape. It is surprising to hear that from them. Everybody knows that the Ghanaian economy has been mismanaged and that the economy is in a very bad shape. I think that President Mahama in his delivery was very generous. In fact, if you compare the SONA this year to the SONA that was presented in 2017 by President Nana Addo, Dankwa Akufo-Addo, then, as he then was, you will see marked difference in the presentations. I think that President Mahama did not spend time to lament on the bad state of the economy as he has inherited. I think that most part of his presentation was forward-looking, and he emphasized on some of the things that he's going to do to turn things around. And he made certain profound statements, promise to Ghanaians that he would fix the economy. He will fix all the problems that he inherited. And we know from his track record that he's a problem solver. He compared that to him solving Doomsaw. Doomsaw, a problem that was perennial, that he inherited. President Mahama solved it. And so if such a person with such track record tells you that he would fix another problem, I think it is easy for anybody to believe him that he's going to fix the problems. In fact, when I sat there listening to him, I expected that he would spend a lot more time to talk about the ills of the economy, how bad the economy is. But he spent just a little time on that and moved on to say other things.
So you are saying that it is worse than we've been told today?
It is worse, but you are going to get the details on the 11th of March when Dr. Atto-Forson comes to present the budget. You see, but if you look at the style of President Mahama, he just briefly touched on some of the issues and then moved on to dwell more on the things that he is going to do to fix the economy. In fact, listening to my good brother, Dr. Amin Adam, and the other gentleman, I think...
That's the MPP Director of Communication.
Yes, their usual rhetoric of blaming the state of the economy on COVID, and that then it looks like will never change. We all know that every country, including Ghana, was hit by COVID, but because we did not have enough shock absorbers, the little external shock brought us on the ground. That is the fact. Nobody disputes the fact that COVID had an effect on Ghana and on any other country. But the fact that that external shock brought us to our knees demonstrated that, already our economy was heading into the ditch.
But Mr. Nyako, if I may come in briefly, and to put this in proper context. Now, if you say that you inherited an economy that is so bad that, somebody, from want of a better word, unsuitable to do anything good. Now, this government, the Mahama government, is just 50 days old in government. You are yet to even present your first comprehensive budget. You've managed to pay coupons in excess of 6 billion Ghana cedis. Some will suggest that it is because of what the MPP government did that has provided the cushion for you to undertake this payment. Because clearly, you've not done anything that would suggest that it is your own doing that culminated in the payment of this 6 billion to the matured coupons. What will be your response to this?
My response will be that since we came, we have decided that we will constrain expenditure. We will control expenditure. And in fact, that is the difference between our government as we left the economy for the MPP and what they are leaving for us. Look, when they took over, we had built buffers in a sinking fund that had in excess of $250 million. And because we knew that the Eurobond that President Kufuor took was going to mature in a couple of months. And so we built the buffers, and when they came, they were able to use that money to clear the debt. But what did they leave for us? Look, President Mahama quoted that in the CD debt service recovery account, the balance in it as they left, and I mean, my brother, Dr. Amin Adam, is here. I heard him in a statement disputing this. The balance they left was 143 million cedis. Meanwhile, in just about a month after, we had to pay in excess of 6 billion cedis. So what buffers did they leave? And how did they expect any government to be able to pay that money when it falls due? So that is it. In the dollar account, President Mahama quoted that they left only $64,000. $64,000 in the dollar debt service account.
So this 6 billion series is basically from cutting down expenditure and,
cutting down expenditure, sweeping of accounts, and many other things that we had to do to be able to meet this obligation.
Right.
Because it was important that we met this obligation. And
it looks like connection to the to Mr. Thomas Ampemdako appears to be buffering. We'll try and bring him back on. But let me see if Dr. Amin Adam would like to offer some reaction, and then I will let them go so that we deal with the political aspect of the State of the Nation address. Doc, are you there, Dr. Adam?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
I would like to react. Yes.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, the sinking fund issue, I think it's being overplayed. I mean, because when you talk about buffers, there are three main ways of building buffers. And there are three accounts the Ministry of Finance holds through which we build buffers. The sinking fund is just one of them. It's just one. And the sinking fund has its own sources. The sinking fund is funded from excess over the cap on the stabilization fund in our petroleum revenues. That is one. The second one is through external borrowing. Now, over the last 1 year, because of our IMF program, we were not allowed to borrow beyond 80 million United States dollars. And when you come to the petroleum revenue side, because we did not have excess over the cap, certainly you will not have more money going into the sinking fund. So that is just one of the buffers. The other two buffers, if you care, is the IMF proceeds account. That's another buffer we have. And I'll tell you, the IMF last disbursement came on the 2nd of December, if you recall. But we were able to pay coupons to Eurobond holders on the 3rd of January,
right,
amounting to 346 million United States dollars.
Right.
We didn't pay these coupons from the sinking fund, but it was a buffer that we created, which we could have used just after 2nd December, but we kept it. And after the year ended, on the 3rd of January, we paid $346 million in coupons to Eurobond holders. That was one of our buffers. The second one, in fact, the third one, is the Treasury Main 2 accounts, which is kept also by the Controller and Accountant General. So these are the three buffers that we have, not only the sinking fund.
Right.
I'm not surprised the president went talking more about sinking fund. Perhaps he was misled into thinking that the sinking fund is the only, a source of buffers. But there are these buffers that we've created. And I'll tell you, by the end of 2024, there was some 3 billion Ghana cedis we didn't spend. We could have spent it, but we kept it in the Treasury Main 2 account as a buffer. So why didn't the president talk about that? So let's not do propaganda.
Exactly, but my final question,
catch up with you,
Doctor. My final question, so that I can let you go, is also how, in the same State of the Nation address, how do you justify the $400 million expenditure on the Agenda 1 project when one was not even delivered?
Well, these projects were all happening concurrently, and I'm sure you have been monitoring, and you will notice that the projects are at different stages of completion. As of the time we left, about 20 were above 90% stage of completion, about 20. There were others which were above 70%. and others below 50%. And so you cannot say that because 400 million was spent, 400 million you have completed 20. You are assuming that you would have done only 20 projects from start. But you have 111 or more projects across the country, and every part of this country deserves it. And you see contractors on these sites working across the country. Apart from the jobs that you are creating across the country, it is also an economic activity, construction, which grew significantly over the last 2-3 years. And so the government has responsibility to mobilize resources to complete these projects. Just as we mobilize resources to complete projects that they left in 2016. They have that responsibility. That is why the people of Ghana voted for them to fix it. And so this lamentation, I'm really surprised.
All right, Dr. Amin, thank you so much. Mr. Ampem, if you are there, so what exactly should we expect in the budget, especially on the matter of, cutting costs, rationalizing expenditure, and making money available for critical sectors of the economy? Now that you are quite clear, the amount of money needed to service loans, interest payment, and other obligations of government, whilst also meeting the many promises you've made to the electorates.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Before I come to that, I want to quickly say on this that we believe, in fact, President Mahama made this statement forcefully, that it was poor judgment to decide to start 111 hospitals simultaneously. It was poor judgment. It was only motivated by cheap political advantage that the government of the day wanted to have. Because, you see, what is the sense in starting so many projects at the same time with little resources that cannot complete all of the project at the same time? So the best way that we felt this could have been handled was to use the available resources to start and complete a number of them. When you finish, you move on to others so that they can be operational, so that the projects can be functional. Today, you have 111 hospitals dotted across the length and breadth of this country at different stages of completion. What was the use of that? Now, the monies are locked up and none of the projects is functional, is being used for the purposes of health delivery.
Why didn't you do that with the e-blocks? Why didn't you do that with the e-blocks?
That is the point.
When you started a lot of them simultaneously.
And so for me, if we are going to continue with any of those projects, in fact, our approach will be probably to select a few with the little resources we have and then complete them, then we move on to the other. The president hinted that we will have other forms. And in fact, he mentioned that he's asked the health minister to actually bring a comprehensive plan as to how we are going to handle this.
Right. So
on the issue of the budget that is coming
right.
up and what to expect, in fact, I know that the finance minister is working with the team to finalize the budget. In fact, because I haven't been approved and sent there yet, I'm not privy to much of the information. But I know that this budget will bring hope to Ghanaians. We are going to see that we are aggressively pursuing revenue mobilization, and we are going to cut costs. Look, I've heard a lot of people trivializing the president's attempt to operate a lean government. Today, when I heard the minority leader in his concluding speech, trying to suggest that the president is cutting down the number of ministers, and he's going to, or he has appointed so many presidential staffers. I can say on authority that after cutting down the number of ministers, we will also have fewer presidential staffers than what President Akufo-Addo did in his government. So what President Mahama is doing is sending a very good signal to Ghanaians that look at the times in which we are. if the president is cutting down costs, tightening his belt, then he can then ask Ghanaians to also help us get the economy on track. And finally,
right,
President Mahama made an important call. You see, I've heard some of our friends on the other side suggesting that, by inviting Ghanaians to an economic forum is because we lack ideas as to how to handle the economy. Far from that. President Mahama wants to build consensus on the way forward. And that is what we need to do, because in difficult times like this, you need to carry everybody along. And I recall when I was a new DC in my constituency hosting the National Economic Forum that the MPP boycotted. President Mahama has made an appeal to you that this time we hope you will not boycott such an important exercise. We want to carry every Ghanaian along, including those who put us in the mess, in fixing the problem. We don't care if you share the glory with us that, you participated in the fixing of the problem. That is what leadership is about. And so, Honorable Dr. Amin Adam, I know you're a fine gentleman. You mean well for Ghana. Even if your party decides not to participate, I know that will not be what you want to do. Come and join us. Let us think together. Let us build consensus on the way forward to build Mother Ghana.
Doctor, will you be there? Doctor, will you be there? Will you be at this forum?
Well, I think that the party will take a decision on this, not me as an individual. And so when the party decides, we'll communicate to the world. But I appreciate the fact that you want to build consensus the same way you did in Senchi. But what did that deliver? What did that deliver to the Ghanaian? It delivered a broken economy, which we fixed. A deficit of 8.3% on commitment, which should have been 3%. That's what it delivered. It delivered a current account deficit, a trade balance deficit. It delivered not so much to the extent that the IMF program had to be extended when we took over from you, because the program was totally drilled. And that is what you people are trying to do, equalization. And so your minister has sent, a letter to ministries to compile projects, commitment, and others, with the view to using it to influence the macro framework and come out and say that the NPP has also breached the IMF program. And I know that you will not win from this.
All right.
We will continue to hold you responsible and accountable.
Dr. Amin, I'm surprised you think that the fact that the
management of the economy.
Right, let's leave it here, Doctor.
You think that the fact that the minister is asking all MDAs to bring, data on contracts, on commitments, on arrears, means we are up to something. I mean, if you were a new minister,
when he brings it out, in the budget, who interrogate
a new minister taking over the management of the economy, don't you think you will want to have a fair view of what you are up against? And so I think that is very, very important that we know.
Gentlemen, I think we have to leave the economic aspect of the SONA here and then continue the discussion. Thank you so much. Bisa Thomas and Dr. Amin Adam, the former finance minister. Of course, the discussion on the economy will take center stage again when the budget is presented on March 11. But then also at the presentation, there's also the political angle to all of this, what it makes the MPP look and what the NDC is trying to sell to the people of this country. And that is the reason why our next page on this discussion is going to focus on some of the political decisions taken since the assumption of the NDC administration, and of course what we were told by President John Mahama this afternoon. And of course, Mr. Wichranyaba is still here in the studio with me. And Musa Magbambe is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, also Deputy Director of Operations at the Jubilee House. So, Mr. Nyaba, to what extent does this make the MPP look bad in the eyes of Ghanaians?
Well, I think that the Ghanaians know what we went through, the path that we have walked from 2017 up until 2020 when things went south, and the efforts that government put in to salvage the economy and improve conditions for Ghanaians. So Ghanaians are very well aware of what we have been through and the difficulties, the promises they saw in the economy. So Ghanaians are aware. The presentation of the president is designed to kind of misrepresent and give Ghanaians a very dire image of what he is inheriting. But on balance, if you see, the economy His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is inheriting is far better than what he left. And so for me, it is rather disingenuous for him, who left a much worse economy, to describe a better economy as inheriting as an economy that has been mishandled. And I think that is a poor assessment and a poor reflection on who he is, and it probably will be a poor reflection of what work he's going to do. He just tells us that he's setting the bar low. What he's doing is to create the impression things are so bad, and that if he's able to move it an inch, then he has done exceedingly well. The truth is that he's inherited a much better economy. He left an economy that was declining, that was declining fiscal year after fiscal year from 2013 when he took over up until he left. And that same economy he left that was declining was turned around a year after we took over, and that the 3.4 economy grew 8.1 the year after he left office. So it's an indication of his management capacity of the economy. And so what he did today, if Ghanaians were to give a fair assessment of his office, him being in office in his first term, would come to a conclusion that this 4 years that he has is not going to be any different. It's going to be one that the economy will suffer, and he's looking for a basis to say that, oh, look at where I started from. And I think that is unfair, that is wrong. The economic data shows that this economy is better. He himself should do the comparison. Right. And you can do the comparison. The numbers are out there. I was conceding to you earlier about inflation. The matters about inflation, the factor out there for all of us to see. How is it that in 2022, the economy, the inflation rose up to about 54.1%, and how that was brought down almost in 2 years, turned that around, and that is looking downward consistently, reflecting conditions in other places as well. The last time I was here, I was talking about the inflation situation that created a lot of labor strikes in the United Kingdom, that created difficulties in America, were leading to the Treasury increasing interest rates to be able to contain the rise of inflation. So those realities are out there. We have not at any point in time said that this economy, from when we entered into COVID, we have never said that it's been a good economy. We appreciated and acknowledged the difficulties there, but we have also been clear in our minds to assure Ghanaians that we can do it. Yes. We have indeed brought the economy out of the doldrums to a point where it's even better than what His Excellency John Dramani Mahama left when there was no COVID, when there was no Russia-Ukraine war at all. But then they tanked the economy, but we put the economy he tanked to a better place. And
there are issues about addressing the unemployment situation when at the same time some people are being laid off. I'll come back to you on that. But let me bring in Mustafa Gbamde. Mustafa, your initial reaction to the SONA and of course all the issues that we've heard so far from some of my guests on the show.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to my brother. I think first of all, I was listening to my senior brother, the former finance minister, say that they've grown the Ghanaian economy GDP by 20 billion. And my initial reaction is that an economy that is small, that takes care of its people, is a prudently managed economy. What is the profit of an oversized, cooked economy when its people are dying? Today, President Mahama have sown a seed that it's a foundation that hopes are alive. That today, 50 days ago, there used to be a government in power where the people were suffocated where the ordinary Ghanaian was hard-pressed, where standard of living was very high. Today, we've taken our country away from the casino boys and girls led by a station master, and that the foundation of hopes have just been laid, and that there is an honest evaluation of the state of our country.
Right.
To the extent that Ghana government Ghana economy came under high attack by these casino boys and girls, which my brother Ahiagba knows who they are. They've suffocated this economy. They took so much money, chopped same, managed the economy badly, put all of us in trouble. And when I sit back, today I'm smiling, because in as much as we are yet to start building a country again, you have leadership that you can trust. You have leadership that is honest. You have leadership that has credibility. You have a leadership that even before it gets 3 months in office, began to heal one of the most avoidable atrocities committed by these casino boys and girls, taking pensioners' money. And President Mahama have decided to say, I will honor them, I will pay them back what we have taken from them. And I think that the MPP should be very humble enough to say, this is a solid foundation. And if you examine the euphoria of today's presentation, you realize that clearly it exposes the wickedness, the deliberate lack of management on the part of the MPP, that clearly they had an option to make Ghana better, but because they are fused with the appetite of chopping money, taking what doesn't belong to them, they plunge the nation and the ordinary Ghanaian into hardship. My brother Richard Ahiagba knows that. And so when he comes to sit and he's talking about economic figures, which does not make sense to the ordinary Ghanaian, he is adding more salt to injury. The ordinary Ghanaian is saying, when you were in government 8 years, they saw you living a very opulent lifestyle. They saw how President Akufo-Addo and his appointees mismanaged this economy, and that at best, they didn't want to see this breed of people in government. They have brought a new set of government that is coming to dig a foundation that will give birth to jobs, that will give hopes alive. I have heard President Mahama talk about agri centers, and I was like, wow, the farmers in my village, the farmers in my brother Richard Ahiagba's village, the farmers in my senior brother finance minister's village will see some light, because as we speak,
right,
when they promise planting for food and jobs, 8 years, we saw that was a scam. When they promised one village, one dam as an agri policy, it was again a scam. But the NDC is saying that I'm going to place tractors at the disposal of farmers, exploit those avenues, go and produce farm for us to enhance our food security. You've heard President Mahama talks about jobs, and these are realistic policies that will be achieved if people don't become greedy. So avoidably, the MPP had the option to make this country better, but they just couldn't, because their focus was to steal. Their focus was to be vindictive.
Mr. because you touched on jobs, in the State of the Nation address, President Mahama told us that there are at least 2 million youth in a country who are unemployed, and he is designing various models to get them employed. Now, here's the case that the former administration made the work easier when they absorbed some of them. Now, you've come to even sack them. The same space you want to create for people to be employed. This afternoon, for example, we've been told that over 50 PMMC workers across the country have been laid off. The reason being that, they are doing some kind of a restructuring.
No, brother, creating jobs is not evilly planting people on a payroll to politically exploit same. That is not job creation. The only job they created was NAPCO, and they couldn't even pay the people. My brother here knows that in 8 years, the only job creation policy they brought, which functioned, we saw people being employed, was NAPCO. Before they left power, they owed them 8-9 months. That is very evident of the Nana Akufo-Addo's government. And so when you are about to exit government and you wickedly employ people contrary to procedure, contrary to practice, those people should be laid off so that the proper thing can be done. The government is not saying that the fact that you are laid off, you are not longer a Ghanaian. You can reapply when these vacancies are open to all Ghanaians. It doesn't matter whether you are NPP, it doesn't matter whether you are NDC, but government is saying that the people were not employed following due process. Don't we have to follow due process in employing people? Do we have to say because we are in government, we should just wake up any day and be employing people without due process? Now, when youth of this country were complaining about jobs, did the Akufo-Addo government have the avenue to employ, yet refuse to employ their own youths? Is it deliberate? Is it wickedness? Or is just political, people, when power enters your head and you do not even know where you come from? Their own people, they failed to employ them. And then when you have lost power, within the period of transition, you overload the payroll and you expect these people to be there. Let me tell them, more are yet to be sacked. If you were employed wrongly, that employment will be nullified. You would have to reapply. And that when you qualify on merits, you'll be given a job, irrespective of whether you are NPP or you are NDC. As far as you are a Ghanaian, if there's a job vacancy and you are competent, you should be able to bid and apply for that job. If you qualify, you should be given. That is what the government is saying. What is the hue and cry about this? Didn't the NPP government do the same when they were in power? When they came to power, didn't they do the same? They claimed that the outgoing government at the time employed people contrary to, due process, and that they had to nullify those employment. And that was correct at the time. Today, the same thing is being done, and the MPP want to invent new laws, new rules. Does it not just suggest and expose their double standards?
Another issue that captured my attention. This is a quote, Mr. Speaker. As part of Operation Recover or Loot policy, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service Ghost Names scandal to justice. Such brazen theft of public funds must be stopped and punished. It is estimated that the criminal addition at some point of more than 80,000 ghost names could have yielded the suspect over 50 million a month. Unfortunately, some of the suspects are believed to have absconded from the country. I've directed that they be declared wanted and their assets traced and frozen until investigations are completed. It looks like you've already pronounced them guilty even before a court of competent jurisdiction established so.
No. If you are a potential suspect or a suspect, and it is perceived that at the time you are being sought for, you can't be found, it's just in accordance with, criminal process to declare the person wanted, subject to investigation. And I've heard President Mahama made that statement very clear, that all of these people must be brought to face the investigative process. And I always say this, if you look at the mood of the ordinary Ghanaian, look, if we fail to bring to book these casino boys who have stolen so much than they actually need, if we have not been able to retrieve most of this stolen wealth back to the people of Ghana, I think that Ghanaians will be disappointed. And so I was so happy to have seen that today, not just about oral, lawyer Martin Pebu have actually applied to the Police Criminal Investigation Unit to commence an investigation into illegalities committed by MPP's Chamahun to me. I was very excited because whoever have done something wrong against the people of Ghana must be brought to book. And for me, that is one mandate on which Ghanaians voted for the NDC. They just believe that the people in government were more or less a bunch of individuals who have hijacked an economy, who have stolen the public purse, and they shared among themselves, and that we must take every force to recover what has been stolen.
Let me allow let me allow Richard some reaction to all the things you've said, so I'll come back to Richard.
He's been speaking all this while.
Mustafa is my brother, and I wish him well. But it's just strange that he's struggling. It's just about 50 days into office, and they can't explain things straight. It is not true. Absolutely not true. Okay? The matters to do with the employment, they have not shown us one single evidence of any irregularity. They are claiming that, but we haven't seen it. The president, in his SONA, says that we will leave no one behind. That's an emphatic, clear statement that he made. Yet they are leaving thousands and thousands of young people behind by retrenching them. You can't make that assertion in capping your statement to the nation that this is the state of the economy you found, and that there is a lot of work to be done, which is a fact, because our economy is a problem waiting for solution, and it has always been. And every government must apply itself to try and solve that problem. Now, so when you make that declaration, and then you are at the same time retrenching people on the basis of creating room to employ your party people, then I am not clear in my mind that you are here to solve Ghana's problem. You are here to substitute, you are here to pander to your party people. And the objective of this pursuit of power for the NDC and for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is not to help Ghana.
They said due process was not followed.
They have not shown you. Have you seen any evidence of that? They haven't seen it. When they do, they will ask you, oh, have they advertised in the papers and all of that? You see, the thing about why my brother made the point that why is it that we've been in government and we haven't employed the people and all of that, and
we waited to the last minute.
You see, we need to speak in context. You saw the first half of Akufo-Addo's government, okay, all the way till 2020. But when we came into 2021, right, that government looked different. It was nothing like the first term of Akufo-Addo, because you have a parliament that was contentious, and much of our problems began with that parliament because of how the parliament looked. Even actually signaled to the market that this was going to be a difficult economy to be managed. And right from there, you saw the international agencies started to downgrade our economy. But the NDC exploited that adversely, okay, for their politics, but ultimately against the interests of the country. Every blockade they put in parliament affected the economy. They succeeded. They inherited the residual pain from that blockade and that obstruction in parliament. That is what created. Now, before you can employ, you need financial clearance. You have to have the economy, have the fiscal space to be able to do that.
Right.
Since when did the economy turn around? In 2023. The story of the turnaround began in 2023. So you have a limited space to be able to then address all these matters. That's why you have such a delay. But it is not an intentional thing. We came in to do right by this country, and the evidence of our first term shows we didn't complain, we fixed the problem. They left us a mess. Which mess, I don't have to tell you because you saw it. There was doomsday across board. There was difficulty in the economy when they didn't experience anything.
Mahama says he fixed it.
He didn't fix anything.
Exiting.
He didn't fix anything. He left the economy in a mess.
And you left 33 billion debts at ECG, $2.2 billion in the
how much debt?
sector.
How much debt?
Tesla, 75 billion.
That's okay. That's okay. So is he telling us that when he left office, what was the debt to GDP at the time when he left? About 74%. Right? Is that a fixed economy? No, it's not. When he left the economy to us, what was the expansion? 3.4. Is that a fixed economy? No. You understand? So the point we're making is that today was a good opportunity for him. 50 days into office, come in and make concessions that are appropriate, tell us what you're going to do, but you don't come here and indicate to us that you have inherited economy that is bad when that is not true. This whole business about paying, DDEP bondholders.
Yes.
Today they are moralizing about that DDEP, but then when they exploited that for their politics, now they're saying that they have been able to pay them and promising they will pay without any penny left in.
The July-August one.
Yes, of course. But before they paid the fourth one, there was the first payment, there was a second payment, and there was a third payment. Okay, the fourth payment, they have not brought a budget. Where they got the money from to pay that is not of their doing. It's economy that we gave them. They have inherited that produced that amount. Today, as you and I are speaking, do you know how much they have borrowed already? It's almost on an average of 1 billion Ghana cedis a day. That's what they have borrowed already. That's how much they have borrowed already. So if they are saying, and we have done so, from where did they get that money? You understand? So the NDC is not being honest. The NDC, for me, I can tell you this, and we're going to all be here to see it, they are going to make this management of the economy about talk. They are going to just be talking, just like my good brother is talking, sitting in the car, that is talking. They are just going to be talking about it. They won't do anything because we know them. So we know
this borrowing is 1 billion cedis a day.
I'm saying on average,
yes.
If you see the total they have borrowed in 50 days, if you divide that on a daily basis, on average, about 1 billion Ghana cedis a day, about 59 billion.
Yes, it currently stands at 59
Yes,
billion.
on average, even more than $1 billion a day they've borrowed. You understand?
But Richard, if some people are benefiting $50 million a month from supposed ghost names on the National Service Scheme program, then clearly such people must be dealt with.
Absolutely. I don't have any reservation when that is brought to bear. I'm saying that let's have a conversation about that. Let's investigate it. Where anybody is found to have done wrong, those people must be punished appropriately. Nobody is quibbling about that. There's no argument about that. I won't do that argument any day. It doesn't matter who is involved. But let's not create the false impression. You see, unfortunately, what they are probably mistaking the state of the economy to be is that, you're saying about this casino boys and girls and all that. If people have done wrong, it doesn't mean the economy has been criminally mishandled. That, you understand? So they need to separate the two. The economy that you have inherited is not what you are describing. You understand? So, but then if people have done wrong, those people, by all means, must be punished. But allow for that to be done according to law. That's all we're saying. I mean, we all have interest. I can tell you, I'm the first person to say that I want them to succeed. But I just know, my gut tells me they're just not going to. Because if you see their record, if you see their history, and you know that it's the same His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who is in office, he's not going to be able to do anything. Why? Two things. Maybe his record shows he cannot manage the economy well, but their disposition, their worldview, their worldview in a competitive market environment such as this, their worldview does not lend for their success. They don't appreciate the market. That orientation is a difficulty for them. And I'm saying that if you put the two parties together and the field we are playing in is a competitive market environment, you can surely bet on a party whose disposition is to embrace the market, work with the market, and grow the economy. That's where the growth will come from. And so, for me, any day, the MPP stands a better chance to advance Ghana's interests. And I'm confident to tell you today that in time, Ghana will begin to see the amount of work the MPP did.
Let me bring in Mustafa. Mustafa, I mean, after the presentation and the reactions that followed, Dr. Kanashigbe, who is one of the conveners for the media campaign against illegal mining, was quick to say that in all the presentations the President made to Parliament and his reference to illegal mining, he was waiting to hear the President say it. I'm going to instruct the Lands and Natural Resources Ministers to go to Parliament to repeal LI 2462 that allow mining in forest reserve. That did not come up.
Well, so let me first of all state this to my brother Richard before we proceed. An economy is said to have been criminally handled when the president supervised a finance minister who takes loans on behalf of the people of Ghana, uses his private company to benefit from fees. That is when an economy is criminally handled. An economy is again criminally handled when you take loans to invest in agriculture, only to find out that it was a Ponzi scheme. And I'm talking about their planting for food and jobs. It was clearly a Ponzi scheme. I'm talking about their one village, one dam. It was another Ponzi scheme. And so I've just given him 3 examples of when an economy is criminally handled. Now, let me go to the issue of repealing the law that allows for
mining in forest reserves
in the forest. I think that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources just got sworn in,
right?
I think 3 weeks ago, and one will appreciate that the level of corruption, the level of unethical dissipation of government, mineral resources by the President Akufo-Addo's government require a thorough audit, a thorough assessment, a thorough review of the happenings within the ministry to have an informed direction as to how to roll out the current government's policy. And if you don't do it well, then you are bound to fail. We should not do these things in a hurry. It's just barely 50 days. And I believe that subsequent days, with or without the state of the nation, the minister would go to parliament on any day to do that if he's ready to do that.
Right.
You have the commitment of government already. And let me say this. We are still working with the IGP appointed in the previous government. We are still working with the CDS appointed by the previous government. I must say that all the security heads under President Akufo-Addo are still at their post, except the National Security Coordinator, of course. Meanwhile, you have seen commitment by this government towards ensuring that at least the field is not allowed for people to continue what they have done many years ago. Just last week, you have seen a team of operatives led by the minister. You have seen the Ashanti Regional Minister. You have seen the Western Regional Minister. You have seen the Eastern Regional Minister under the supervision of the Lands Minister going to stop further destruction of our forest reserve while these reviews are ongoing. So clearly, my brother Kenasigbe will come to understand that what he wants will be given to the ordinary Ghanaian, because President Mahama has committed to the fact that we will repeal that law,
right,
that allows President President Akufo-Addo and his appointees to flood our forest reserves with Chinese illegal miners, benefited from same, use it under the Ponzi scheme of gold for oil. We are going to repeal that law that displaces all of us, endanger our ecosystem, endanger our living standard, our living as far as the vegetation and environment is concerned.
Right.
And so I beg you, it's early days yet. The minister will do his work, with or without the state of the nation.
We'll leave it here. Mustafa, thank you so much. Richard, do you have anything more to say?
Yes. I mean,
as we begin to wrap up.
Yeah, so Mustafa is struggling, and this is just the beginning. The matters to do with Galamsey, something very dangerous. We must all speak against it, but that somehow is getting worse under them. They haven't gotten a handle. They were in opposition. They talk large and big. Now they're faced with it. They should deal with it because it is getting worse. It's getting out of control, right under their control. So they need to be able to do something about it. The NDC, suddenly when the president came to the House today, did not mention a thing, or he didn't even cough about LGBTQ. But then he won on the back of that. The propaganda they did with that, he won on the back of that. Question is, why did he not mention it? He said he died with the last parliament. Right. And now he's going to have the government introduce a bill to do it. He won't do it. But goodness, they are member of parliament for Asin South, the Reverend Intim actually introduced a private member's bill on that, I think last Friday,
right?
Okay, in Parliament. That is working. We expect the president, he knows about it. We expect him and his government to back that fully, okay, to ensure that that bill is passed, because that is one of the things that the country was crying about. That was one thing the country was yearning for, and they politicized it. They benefited from it. He must see to its passage. But when that is all said and done, our hope is that the NDC must ensure that what economy they inherited, they build on it. We gave them a path of growth. They must not destroy it by talking the way the president has talked today, but show us the evidence that they are going to add to it and make this economy grow so they can improve conditions for Ghanaians. That's what they are elected to do, not to lament.
Finally, people like you, just outside of the SONA, and yesterday, for example, Monday actually, the former majority leader confirmed to us a document in circulation about some work they did regarding the party's performance in the last election, the Ashanti region. They've presented it to the Ashanti region secretariat of the party. Some of the things that came up that is making rounds, the respondents, some of them told the committee that they were unhappy with the leadership style of President Akufo-Addo. They reference a government that was controlled by family members and few other things that are the selection process for your party leaders, parliamentary, presidential aspirants, comments that came from leading members of the party run up to the election are some of the things that got them to stay out of voting on election day last year. I don't know what the party is doing about this.
Well, I mean, that's the Ashanti regional version of the internal stuff. I think, unfortunately, I haven't seen the document. I haven't authenticated whether or not that is really true. But the matters you have raised are matters that probably have happened, especially the issue to do with the, matters arising from the internal primaries and all of that. It's a human institution.
Right.
And then just like how we would go to an election with the NDC, come up and have complaints about things that happen. You'd have that. Internally, it's even more tenuous because you have in a close quarters, people disagreeing, people stepping on people in a process to find a leader from constituency, even from polling station, electoral area, constituency, region, and national. So those engagements naturally generate some unhappiness on the side of people. So we knew that we had some internal issue to address. Good effort was given to addressing those. Not all of them were resolved. Of course, the result shows us that we still have a lot of issues to resolve. I would say that rather than focus on this report, we wait for the Professor Okoye committee, the election review committee, complete their work. We study the input that people have made, and that will become the basis for our restructuring and rebuilding. So for those, I'm not sure what the issues are in that, but the fact is that we had some internal challenges growing from internal democratic processes,
right.
But we know now that has created what that has created, which is the difficulty with the election. We'll fix it, but we're waiting for that report to come, and then that will inspire us to take the right steps based on the recommendations to get things right so that we can come back in 2020.
And will the party be able to resolve every one of them before the next election?
Yes, there is that goodwill now, because we know as a political party we exist to win political power. So the self-interest and the objective of the party will lead every member to realize that it is time to set aside all personal differences and look at what will benefit Ghana. And I told you much earlier that, in us is the belief that given the chance, the party that can advance Ghana's interest is the New Patriotic Party. We believe that, in essence, because of our worldview. We think that it has helped many countries to advance, and anytime the NPP is in government, you see the evolution. Right now, the difficulty we have had, which is an exceptional situation, is with COVID and the general. I mean, you look at what happened in UK, right? The whole government was completely wiped out.
Right.
You go to America, completely wiped out. You understand? A lot of incumbent governments are going against the headwind because of the general economic environment. We are no exception. So what we have suffered, apart from the internal matters, the effect of our loss actually is on the basis of the external impact that has affected our economy. But we are sure that when we do the right thing, when we get our ducks back in line, we will be able to mobilize our party support and be able to win. But what would help us is the NDC's own failure, because I know, given their record, the NDC will not do anything different. And I'll tell you, if you have a second, this whole thing about the one district, one factory.
Right.
Okay? The NDC opposed that. They will tell you they didn't oppose it. They opposed it. They didn't support it. Because when you're trying to incentivize businesses to grow and to invest, to create employment, which was all we're doing. By the way, he said NAPCO was the only way.
The only employment you created.
We created jobs through the one district, one factory in excess of 170,000 direct jobs and related jobs. But what they have done, and now is going to come and bite them, is their opposition to the incentive regime that government was putting in place. to drive enterprise. Because they are not market inclined, they didn't see it. They only see economic stimulus from a demand perspective.
Okay.
Or we're using a supply perspective to drive growth. So if they had approved that tax exemption that were proposed since 2022, if they had approved that, would have created even more jobs. Now, if they continue that initiative, they will have to come to Parliament and incentivize those.
Exactly.
And we'll see what obstructions they will face in Parliament.
Richard Ahiaba is the Director of Communication with the MPP. Earlier you heard from the NDC Deputy General Secretary, Musa Ogman. We'll take a short break here on the pause and return with more. Welcome back. Now let's talk about something that everybody is interested in now. The paint that is working so much magic in homes and in places that hitherto had serious, leaking issues. And Stephanie again is here with me. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so I've gotten so many questions. Some are asking, what makes your paint different? Is it ordinary paint or there's something more to it? So first, let's talk about the paint and what it does. So is it an ordinary paint or this is a special kind of a paint?
Okay. So good afternoon to your viewers. This is a special kind of paint.
Okay.
We have a lot of, products that it's in town and they say stops leaking.
Right.
But this is tried, tested, and proven.
Meaning some research went into it,
yes.
And then the final product is what
and that is
you
what
have.
Came out. That is why we used the basket as a demonstration.
Exactly. We're going to do it again today as well because some people are so skeptical about the genuineness of what we've been feeding them. But so the paint, it is not a case that you can just get a basket, paint the inside and expect that it will hold the water.
No. It has a nice way to do it. That's why I always say the surface that has to be applied has to be very clean. It doesn't matter. It works on every surface. So for this basket, we had to make sure it was cleaned. So, when you buy it, it has dust and other things. It's the same way when the surface that you would apply it has a little bit of dirt. Trust me, it's not going to work. So it has to be very clean. Then we do the application. Once the application is done correctly, that's it. And
then the other concern I'm also getting is that some people are saying that if the paint is on the market, why don't I just go and buy, take it home, paint the places that is giving me trouble, and expect that when it rains, I will have the peace of mind to sleep. Does it work that way? You can do that. That is if you trust your painter. But we will still want to give him the correct way to do the cleaning, the correct way to do the application. Because before the painting is done, something must happen first. Something has to happen. It's just not, usually we just buy paint and we go to the room. We don't you get a brush and start painting. No. But this one, the surface has to be properly cleaned. If it's not properly cleaned and you paint, the paint is not going to solve the problem you're looking for. Okay. So it has to be very cleaned. Once it's cleaned and it's applied the correct way, that's it. I always tell you, I only have to clean my basket when I'm coming for interviews. I just clean the dust that has been, accumulated in it during the days and something. So once it's done correctly, all you need is when it's dirty, and then you wash clean it. Okay. You're good to go. Okay. So if you are lost, we are talking about easy paint. And what it does is that if you have a leaking roof and you've tried all manner of ways to have it and it's not working. The last time I was trying to tell you what somebody introduced me to, then I tried, it didn't work. Mine had to do with the window, silicone. That's what they told me. So we've used so many of it. As soon as, after a while, it wears off, and then I'm back to the same issue. And so in your case, it is foolproof that it will last for a certain number of years, if not forever. So for those who just tune in and they are asking, what exactly are you talking about? Can you walk us through what this whole enterprise is about? Okay. So this is the Easy Waterproof Paint, one of the products from Easy Paints Company. And what this paint does, it solves leakage problems. You go to homes, you have the walls looking so nasty, you think there are no people taking care of the walls, but it is not their fault. Maybe they had plumbing works mistakenly done, that wasn't done well, or the surface, the ground that they built the home on, they didn't do the proper due diligence by applying this. So if you have a house that has already been painted and it's peeling, you have cracks in, please rush and come to Easy Paints. Let's solve this problem for you with Easy Waterproof Paint.
Now, if you have a home that you've, nicely done, newly done, just cemented, plastered, that is the best we can do. That is the best because it's fresh and it's virgin. We just go in, we do the application nicely, and then it helps you. I always tell people that we would have loved that once you do the foundation, we come in from touch. So we can start from the floor, rise to the walls, rise to the ceilings, and then we are done with you. Okay. Your house stays, your pocket is okay. Everybody comes and your home is not a geography class that we have to show the maps of the world.
Somebody is asking that he lives in a compound home and he can tell by the size of the roof that it's been there for over 100 years. It's rusty. Can this help?
It can be helped. It can help. It can.
All right, so then you have your answer. Even rusty roof. Roofing sheet that he's talking about.
Yes.
That he can tell that it's been there for over 100 years. And they have issues with leakage.
Yes, so tell him now that it started raining, or if there are some young men in the house, they can do like their normal Saturday activity, clean the roof for me. Once they finish the cleaning, he should run and come to Easy Paint.
Let's do the demonstration now so that the doubting Thomases will be
okay. So this is water, normal water, no additives. And this is my basket that has been painted with easy waterproof paints and the acrylic semi-gloss as a finishing. So
you're going to pour the water inside.
We're pouring it in.
And baskets and water, they are not the best of friends.
Not at all. Not at all. Somebody told me this morning to give him the basket because he was going to use it for some fufu party somewhere. I said, sure.
The basket for fufu.
Oh, now for fufu party. So I'm going to use it for fufu party. But please, this is it.
So two bottles of water.
I'm giving it 2 bottles. So usually people will say, oh, the water in it is just something little. So definitely, it's not going to.
So we're going to lift the basket to see if the water, as you can see, there's no collection of water under the baskets.
I've done my hair nicely. Let me carry it and then let's see.
Let you see.
Yes.
Perhaps you can even lift it.
Yes.
If it is dripping, we'll see.
Let's see.
There's nothing. There's nothing meaning.
Nothing at all.
Meaning we've passed.
Nothing
we've passed.
at all.
And this is what it will do to your home.
Yes.
If you have issues of leakage.
Or even cracks. Even if you don't have issues of leakage, but you want a paint that will, sustain.
We'll deal with the cracks.
Keep the house for you. This is the best you can use. Yeah.
Again, let's talk about where you can be found, the addresses, the telephone numbers. If you don't want to walk in, you can do the discussion on phone. Yes.
Okay. So for bulk purchase, you can get us at Abeka Junction. We are opposite the Allied Filling Station under the main Achimota Road that leads to La Paz. You can find us there, or you can give us a call on 0243 70 7696. 0243 70 7696. But aside our Abeka office, wherever they sell hardware, you can get easy waterproof paint. Make sure the bucket you're going for is this type, and it has the easy waterproof written down on it with the blue cover.
But for professional advice, you recommend that the person should walk in.
It's better.
Yes, have a sit down. Maybe you have a look at the property, and then you can advise appropriately.
We can advise some, on what to do.
Okay. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming through, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Yes. You have a good weekend.
All right, you have a good weekend too.
This is a pause. Let's take a short break and return.
Here with the Ghana Boundary Commission, we are doing an inspection of Ghana's international boundary line with Côte d'Ivoire.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to protect, manage and resolve disputes along these boundaries?
Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire had a problem which was resolved by the ITLUS ruling.
Unanimously finds that Ghana didn't violate the sovereign rights of Côte d'Ivoire.
For decades, boundary disputes have sparked tensions across the continent, but Ghana is taking a different approach, one built on diplomacy, collaboration, and strategic security. The Ghana Boundary Commission stands at the front line, ensuring peaceful coexistence with our neighbors, demarcating boundaries, and safeguarding national sovereignty. Join us as we uncover the untold story of the Ghana Boundary Commission, its challenges, victories, and the future of Ghana's boundaries.
Now, to some other stories now, and some students at the University of Ghana are urging President Mahama to consider his plans to integrate military training into the National Service Scheme as a pathway for recruitment into the armed forces. Now, speaking to Joy News, Collins Frimpong about the president's plan to introduce military training, the students argue that this initiative would help streamline the military recruitment purposes.
President Mahama has announced that as part of plans to instill discipline among the Ghanaian youth and also Ghanaians in general, he intends to introduce military training into the National Service Scheme. And this has become a major talking point among the Ghanaian youth. We are here in the University of Ghana to engage some students who are potential national service personnel. I want to start for the opinion what they make of this particular policy that the president has announced here. And I have 2 ladies here and 3 gentlemen that I want to engage. First, they say ladies first. So we want to do that first. Good afternoon. What's your name and which level are you?
I'm level 100. My name is Mavis Mensah.
Mavis, which program are you doing?
Bachelor of Arts in Theatre Arts, English and Psychology.
Okay. First of all, what do you make of the policy that the president has announced? He intends to roll out a policy where you inculcate military training into the National Service Scheme.
First of all, I think it's a good idea, and I'll suggest that they pick out people who are rowdy, and then they give them that kind of they send them to the military, but then that's going to tag them. So I suggest it's a general something that everybody goes through.
Right, but first of all, you said it is a good thing. I'll come to you first, but let me come to my brother here. Good afternoon, and what's your name?
I'm Ali Sharif, level 400 student, reading education.
Right, what do you make of this policy?
Oh, I think it's a very good initiative. I was actually listening to the State of the Nation address before I came to write my exams. He was emphasizing on instilling discipline. And I think with that, he's going to boost our reserve. It is going to give the country a lot of reserve personnel in our military. Unlike the developed countries, they have active personnel in their military and reserve personnel. I don't think Ghana we have some. So an initiative like this is going to allow the country to have reserve personnel in matters of need.
Your name and level?
I'm Aiken Salo, level 200, offering Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences.
What do you think? What do you make of this policy?
Actually, it's not a bad one, but you see everything on this earth has the positive sides and the negative sides. If you should look at it very critically, since he said his goal or the main aim of it is to instill discipline, let's look at it first. Let's achieve the discipline first. But well, there will be some shortbacks, which we cannot really ascertain at the moment. Until it is implemented, we can't say anything for now. So let's just wait and watch what comes out of it.
But do you envisage any challenges that this particular policy may pose?
As for challenges, there may not be many, but there may be a few. As in the fewest, some people don't have this kind of physical abilities. So what about the disabled ones? What about them? Have they been thought about? What about those who are not really, let me say, in that fit form for such kind of job? Yeah, that's all I have for now.
Right, thank you, Akins. I still have one more person here that we want to engage. Good afternoon, and your name?
Yeah, my name is Prince Kumar. Yeah, I think it's a very laudable policy, and security has evolved. When you talk about military training, probably are not limited it to physical training, right? So I think beyond even instilling discipline, in our youths, I'm also looking at it from a broader perspective of enhancing the overall national security, posture of our country, especially where our country has been under threat. The country is doing below the 1:500 of the United Nations police to citizen ratio. So we are looking at maybe educating our citizens on basic national security threats and risk, self-defense, and emergency response skills. It may not necessarily be about going to do a press up or something. We are going to make sure we educate people so that they can even detect alarms, especially when we're doing see something, say something, right? Most of us were able to say something because we cannot even detect whether something is about happening. So I believe that this is very good. It's not only Ghana is doing this. Algeria in Africa is doing the same. Singapore is doing the same. Israel is doing the same. Estonia is doing the same. So I think as a country, we need to embrace this. And I believe that I know most of the girls wouldn't want to do this because we have preconceived mindset about military training and all that. But this training, I don't believe is going to be much about physique because some of us cannot withstand them. I can. Probably my friends can't. So I believe that the policy implementation will take into account of everybody's abilities and then address them as such.
Well, folks, that's our show for today. It's been an interaction on the just ended SONA. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. We've got compelling stories there. John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis facing the country. Mahama orders manhunt for fugitives in the National Service Authority scandal. Mahama talks about unemployment, but all he does is sack. That's the minority leader. That's it, folks. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope is profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. Have a good evening and take care.